So to start, an important element of this game is zones of control. For instance, this German unit here, and it's the Axis turn first, by the way, can't move into this hex here because that's a zone of control exerted by the Yugoslav defenders of Zagreb here. There's Zagreb just underneath the marker. That unit exerts a zone of control all the way around it, as in many hex style games, so you can't move from one zone of control into another zone of control. It's sometimes good to exert zones of control. What I'm going to try and do is isolate this Yugoslav unit, which is a similar effect to, if you like, putting it under siege. It reduces its ability to withdraw to any effective hex, withdraw to safety, and it also gives the Axis a huge advantage if they're attacking an isolated unit. So to do that, I need to exert zones of control on it. So I think for turn one, we'll activate this Italian unit, move it along this transport route here, and I think I'm going to exert complete its activation just there. That simple one hex move, and the reason I'm doing that is I don't want it to move any further towards this unit here, because this is only a garrison unit, as I've explained before. Doesn't have a lot of capability in the field, but what it's doing is it's now exerting a zone of control here and here. It's helping isolate this unit in Zagreb. Going back to the next move then, the 2nd Infantry here, this German unit, at the moment exerts a zone of control here and here, but the defenders would have an escape route. So I think 2nd Army, 2nd Infantry Army there are going to get an order to maneuver around the area and come in from another direction. Let's see if we can do that. An infantry unit, a foot unit, has 8 movement points. 1 movement point in the clear along this transport line. Keeping out of this zone of control, look. 2 movement points. An encircling manoeuvre around Zagreb, 3 movement points. 4 movement points. Now it can do that because it can move out of a zone of control when it's first activated only, on its first move. So now it's in a position to attack Zagreb from this direction across the river, but it's exerting a zone of control here, which is, as I've explained, helping isolate this unit. This unit now feels under siege. It feels that it's surrounded. The only hex that's not in the zone of control is this one here, but it cannot retreat anyway, if that was the outcome, into the Reich, because this is the German Reich here. So it wouldn't be retreating into that hex. So effectively, this garrison unit is now under siege. So a great move by the Axis forces there. So the Axis forces are going to make an assault across this river. So we took 1, 2, 3, 4 of its 8 movement points. We've got 4 left. So let's have a look. It has to have enough movement points left out of 8 to attack into the city. costs 1 movement point to cross the river, 2 into an enemy city, that's 3, and another 1 to attack a unit in fair weather, that's 4. So by attacking across the river, taking a bit of a risk here really, I probably wouldn't have done this if that wasn't a garrison strength unit. I'm taking a bit of a risk because that's all of that unit's movement points completed once this attack has taken place. So we know we can do it, and we've used all its 8 movement points, but I must take Zagreb. To help support that, we're going to activate Luftflotte 4 to give air support to this ground combat, and we can do that within 5 hexes, 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away. So Luftflotte 4 can use 1 sortie to provide air support, ground attack for this German unit here. So one of the things we need to do is show that we've used a sortie, and in order to do that I'll put this token here. I could put it on top of the unit, but I like if there's room to just lay it to one side, and that says -1 sortie. Each air fleet, and don't forget this is a fleet, it's not just a squadron, has 6 sorties per game turn, and by supporting this unit we're going to use 1 sortie. So that's going to be our attack. Now, do we use one of the allied ground support event tokens to help that garrison unit in Zagreb? We've only got 2 of them. We have to assume, unless we're really lucky, that once they're used we won't have time to use them again. Or do we save them for the Greek campaign? Because it's an isolated unit, no. I was going to say because it's isolated we will use it, but then that might be wasting it anyway. The outcome here might be inevitable. Okay. First thing we're going to do is roll 1 dice for both the German attackers and the Yugoslavian defenders. We're going to use a grey dice for the Germans, and we're going to use a red dice for the Yugoslavians. So the first thing we do is a roll. Oh, okay, we've got 5 on the grey dice for the Germans. Where can I put that to show you? There was the 5, and we've got just 2 for the Allied defenders. I think now we'll just take a look at the combat results table and see how easy this is to work out the outcome. Okay, so across the top on the combat results table, and all combat is resolved on this single table, no matter what kind of combat, ground, air, naval, it's all resolved on this table here. So the attackers, the Germans, they're there at the top, scored a 5. The defenders in red down the side scored 2. And now we simply go through the ground combat dice roll modifier table, and I'll do that bit by bit and show you how that works just on this particular turn. First of all, the attacker gets +2 simply because they are German. Now this is where the game shows the better training, the better organisation, the better discipline, the better equipment levels of particular forces. So +2 for being German. Let's have a look. Is it a tank unit? No, it's not. Is it attacking an isolated defender? Remember, we took time, we manoeuvred in the field to isolate that unit. It is an isolated unit, so we get +2 for that. We're now at 9. We get -1 for attacking a unit in a city, -1. And we get one, don't we? -1, yeah, -1 for attacking across the river. So that's taking the terrain into effect. But how about the air support? +2 for those Stukas that are attacking the defenders in fair weather. 1, 2. Total of 9. The poor allied unit, who only scored 2 anyway, get a -2. We can't go below 1 for being a reduced strength unit, because it's only a garrison unit, remember. And that's it. It has no other support. And if we cross-reference, check across, we get to DE, which you look on the results table, defender eliminated. It couldn't be more decisive. What an attack. It was worth moving the Italians up to help isolate the unit, although not to take part in the combat. It was enough them being there. And to do that roundabout, circuitous route, that manoeuvre in the field to come in to assault Zagreb from a different direction. So going back to the area, I've put an axis control marker in Zagreb. We now, or rather the axis now control Zagreb. We follow up. The Germans will occupy Zagreb, and because they've got no movement points left, we'll finish their turn. On the Allied track, which shows the national will, that means we have to, because the Axis have taken an Allied city, reduce the Yugoslavian will by 2, and they now have a national will of 4. Remember, if they reduce to 0, Yugoslavia will collapse and the Axis will have conquered Yugoslavia. What to do next? Well, possibly the next obvious move then is to make a move on Belgrade, and really the only unit that's in position to do that is going to be 2nd Panzer, which is situated just across the river, look, and attacking Belgrade. I can't see any opportunities to surround Belgrade, so I think the Germans have no choice but to do a frontal attack across the river. The advantage we do have is that this is a full German armoured unit attacking a garrison unit, albeit in the capital city. So let's take a closer look at that. So we can't isolate the units. There's no real option for manoeuvre. Although once again this air fleet here, Luftflotte 4, could add another sortie, and meaning another of its squadrons are assisting in this assault on Belgrade. I think we'll do that. So this isn't an infantry unit, it's an armoured unit, meaning and being mechanised, mobile. It has 10 movement points. So let's take a look. We'll activate it. It has its orders and it begins its assault. First of all, it moves along the transport line, clear hex, 1 movement point, we're down to 9. It now has to have enough movement points to attack across the river into Belgrade. There, look. So, it would take 1 point to cross the river, 1 movement point from the 9. 2 to attack the city, that's 3. And another 1 because they're attacking a unit in the clear. A total of 4. Which will bring its remaining movement points down to 5. I'll just put something in place to remember that I sometimes use these dice to remind me of how much movement a unit has got left. So once it's finished this combat, it will have 5 movement points left. We will be backed up by the Allied air power. If Belgrade is conquered, Yugoslavia will fall. It's already lost its national will by 2. It has 4 left, all of which it will lose if the capital is taken. I think without doubt, excuse me, the Allies will provide ground support to Belgrade, so we'll bring out our marker. There's Allied ground support. If we're going to use it, we might as well use it now to help support the capital. That will give a +1 modifier to the dice roll for this poorly equipped Yugoslavian garrison unit. Let's see if it's worthwhile. Again, red dice for the Allies and a grey dice for the attacking German unit. Oh! You never know. You never know, this might have worked. We've got a 1 for the attackers and a 4 for the defenders. They're putting up a stout defence, those guys. I think what I'll do is I will resolve the combat on the table. I'll do it off camera because hopefully I'll do it a little bit quicker. So, defenders got 4. The German attackers just 2. The Germans get 2 for being German. They get +2 for being armoured, attacking in mild weather. They get 2 for the air support. We're now on a result of 8. -1 for attacking across a river, and minus another 1 for attacking into a city. Total of 6. The Allies get +1 for the ground support, up to 5, and then -2 for being a reduced strength unit. Do excuse me. For a total of 3. Cross-reference it, DR. The result is a DR. On the results table, defender retreat. It must retreat 1 hex away from the attacker. Can it do that? Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Okay, it has to retreat 1 hex. So let's do that. Take the ground support off. It retreats to, I think, into the hills. I think this makes more sense now. It retreats into the hills. The Panzer units are going to follow up. Put a control marker on Belgrade. They've taken Belgrade. Moving to Belgrade, we've already paid the movement points for that. In fact, if we remember, they've still got 5 movement points left. The national will of Yugoslavia is minus another 4. So unfortunately for Yugoslavia, a brave defence of Belgrade, but their national will is reduced to zero. Yugoslavia have officially collapsed. One of the first things we do, because that's instant, that has to be instant, and all their units are removed from the game. So there they put up a stout defence and managed to retreat to the hills. Once the capital city was taken, it was enough. When you're starting with a very low national will, and not all countries do that, by the way, it's enough to collapse the country. So once we look over again at the situation, it now looks very different. What I do need to do before I forget is roll the dice for that ground support unit to see when it returns to the game. Let's have a quick roll, and we've got a 6, so that won't be used again. So we've now just got one element of ground support left for the Allies in the game. Meanwhile, this panzer unit has another 5 movement points. I think he's going to continue moving. Yeah, I think he's going to continue moving. 5 movement points, let's move that out of the way. Let's have a look. Oh, I have to change that Luftflotte 4 sortie marker to now -2 sorties because of the support it gave to the attack on Belgrade. And let's continue to move 2nd Panzer. The attack on Greece being the most important, he needs to get down there, I think. So he's obviously left a certain amount of troops behind, and he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh. Does he take his last movement point and move right to the coast? I'm thinking about zones of control. Oh dear. I think he can move right the way into that zone of control. Here. Because look what's happened. Right. Yes. I think that's how we'll leave it. It's completed its activation here. On the coast. For the next move, I think we're going to bring the Italians in again to assist the Axis campaign. I thought of making a frontal assault, but on this Greek unit here, holding in the mountains, but they'd be attacking across this mountain hex side here into the rough. And the rough is bad enough without having to attack across a mountain hex side as well. So this infantry unit here, the Italian unit here, is going to perform a manoeuvre in the field similar to the last one you saw up north. So they're going to get their trucks fired up and the horses, get the guys on the road, and they're going to march out of this zone of control on their first activation north across this rough terrain. The 2 movement points, remember they have 8 to spend, and then 3 movement points to move into this rough terrain and cross that mountain hex side. So they've used 5. They've used 5 movement points and they have 3 left. and they're now going to assault this unit in the mountains. So we're going to do a roll, and it's going to be the same kind of thing again. We're going to use the red dice for the allies, which in this case is the Greeks, the grey dice for the Axis forces. Will the Greeks use any ground support? No, I think the ground support token, the one remaining, is going to be used in this area by the look of it. It's going to turn out to be more important. Okay, I think we'll leave it as it is. Unfortunately, Luftflotte 4 up in the north isn't close enough to give air support to the Italians. So we'll do the assault as it is. Okay, so this Italian unit is going to be attacking this garrison strength unit here. And this is just going to be a straight fight, so let's see how it goes. Oh, okay, 2 for the Germans and 3 for the Allies. So again, I'll just do that off camera. See where we are. This is going to be very different, by the way, from the last couple of combats you saw. I think so anyway. So there we go. So the attacker has 2. Nothing for any unit superiority. He's attacking a unit in the rough, so it's -1. That's not good. Is that right? Let me just double check that. Yeah, -1. He's not attacking across a mountain or anything like that. He's got no air support. So his result, oh dear. So his result is simply 1. And let's have a look at the Allies. All those plucky Greeks in the mountains once again. Okay, so they started off with 3. They're a reduced strength unit, unfortunately, so they get -2. Do they get any more modifiers? Looking down the table, no. No air support, nothing like that. The result after all that is no result. It's a stalemate. That plucky unit held out in the mountains. I love that. I love that because that is that really is quite historical. That's a fantastic result for the Allies, and maybe just what we need right now. And I took a risk on that manoeuvre around the mountains, didn't I? Which means that after attempting to attack that hex, that Italian unit has no movement points left. It's pretty obvious that the Italians have to have one more go. With this unit here, we're going to activate that unit. It's going to be a straightforward attack across the mountains. Let's see what happens this time. It's got to pay 2 movement points for the terrain, 1 for attacking, and another 1 for attacking across the hex side. So 4 of its 8 movement points. There's no support anywhere in the area. Roll the dice. Best of luck, Greek guys. It could be bad. This could be very bad for the Allies. The attacker has rolled 5. That Italian unit really gave it some welly. Maybe the unit that did the manoeuvre around the mountains, maybe that was a bit tired and this one isn't. But the Allies have only rolled a 1. So let's go. There's no plus modifiers for the attacking Italian unit. In fact, it's not an isolated defender either. It's -1 for attacking in the rough. Minus another 1 for attacking across a mountain hex side, which reduces their roll to 3. The Allies, let's have a look. That Greek unit does get a -2 modifier, but it's only on the it's only on 1 at the moment anyway, so it can't get any lower than that. It's defender retreat. So that the result is defender retreat. Can it retreat anywhere? Yes, of course it can. It can't retreat into an enemy zone of control. So the only place it can retreat is there. Plucky Greeks, plucky Greeks. The Italian unit will follow up and occupy the area that it pushed the Greek defenders out of. And it's got enough movement points, I think, to attack once again. It has. Not attacking across a mountain this time. Still attacking into the rough. That victorious Italian unit, buoyed up by its success, is going to attack this Greek unit on the coast. You can keep doing that in mobile attacks as long as you've still got movement points left. It's used 4 of its 8. It's got 4 left. It's going to cost it 2 into the rough, 1 for attacking the. So it's going to cost 3 of its remaining 4. Let's go. Let's try again. Let's grab those dice wherever I put them. There they are. Once again, grey for the attacker. Let's see if I can roll them just. Oh, what we got, what we got, what we got. There we go, there we go, there we go. Rolled 3 for the attackers, 1 for the defender. Let's put them on the chart and see what we get. Is this going to be the same result again? I think we're going to get no pluses for the Italians. In fact, attacking a unit in the rough, they're going to get a -1, which brings them down to 2. No result. No result, because the defenders would get a -2, but they can't go lower than the 1 that they rolled. So no result. They've been held. They've been held by these plucky Greeks in the mountains once again, as they often were historically. Great job. Great job by the Italians as well, but now they've been stopped. Okay, so it's still turn 1. The Axis have done quite well so far. Yugoslavia fell fairly easily, didn't it really? Almost inevitable. But hey, Greece is a tougher nut to crack, and we can see what effects correctly that spine of the country, the rough terrain, the mountainous areas are having on the ability for the Axis to get a result. But inevitably, now we have the assault on Salonika protected by this Greek unit here. And the BEF will very soon become engaged by the look of it. I think the Axis needs to get air support. So we're going to make a transit move, a repositioning of Luftflotte 4. They're going to fly that now. An air unit can reposition anywhere on the map that's either in a city, so it could be Sofia, for instance, either in a city or on a transport link hex. So the closest it could get would be here. So Sofia or here. I think, will it make a difference? It certainly might do next turn, because I don't think the Axis are going to achieve this in the first game turn. So we're going to overturn history here, quite possibly. So, okay, Luftflotte 4 are going to reposition on some flat stretches that they found on this major transport link, but in the up in the hills. As a result, they've used yet another sortie. This is becoming dodgy. So they've now used 3 of their 6. I'm just going to move this Bulgarian unit out the way a little bit, just for aesthetic reasons. And -3 sorties, and we know that's to do with this air combat unit here. So the Germans now need to assault Salonika. This unit, remember here, has used all its movement points. It can't participate, although it is assisting because it has a zone of control here. I'm hoping to spare 1st Panzer the movement points of 1st Panzer so it can move later on. So we're going to assault with the 12th Infantry Army here, supported, but we could put an airdrop in even. Oh, you beauty. Okay. Okay, we are the Germans are going to use their airdrop ability. Now you can use this marker, there it is, on a city, as long as the drop zone is within 3 hexes of the nearest air fleet, which it is. The air fleet does not use up a sortie in order to do this. The airdrop, the airdrop is carried out by the Ju-52s that are brigaded, if you like, within the Luftflotte 4 air fleet. So we're going to do an airdrop on Salonika. If you turn over the marker, it shows us that if you do that successfully, the defender will get a -2 to their dice roll modifier. So this is very, very worth it for Salonika, I think. And the unit assaulting Salonika in this first instance is going to be the 12th Infantry, as I said, attacking into the city in the clear. So it starts off with 8 movement points. It's attacking into a city, which costs it 2. It's attacking a unit in fair weather, which costs it another 1. So a total of 3 movement points from 8. I'll just put that there to remind me it has 5 movement points left. And we're going to do an airdrop and we're going to have another sortie from Luftflotte 4, so I changed that to -4. Gosh, those boys are flying round the clock to support the ground forces. Again, very historically accurate. So they're going to take part in the assault on the city as well. Best of luck, allies. So here we go. Roll the 2 dice. Grey for the attackers, red for the defenders. And we've got a 5 for the attackers, a 3 for the defenders. So I'll just put it over here on the table. I won't bother moving the camera. Again, like so. Okay, so looking down the modifiers, the attackers get 2 for being German. What else? They're not a tank unit. The defender is not isolated, but they're attacking into a hex that contains a city, so that's -1, back down to 6. They have air support, which gives them +2, so their result is 8. Okay, the first thing that happens to the die roll of 3 for the defenders is that we're going to -2 for that airdrop marker, so they're down to 1. It's not a reduced strength unit. As you can see, it's a full strength unit. It's not isolated. I think, if you'll allow me, we should have used our remaining ground support. This is very important. I think we should use our remaining ground support marker in this combat for the Greeks. They need all the help they can. So we've taken 2 off for the German airdrop, so we're down to 1. We're +1 for the ground support. And I think that's it. Yeah, we cross-reference it. Oh dear. DD, which is Defender Disrupted. First thing we have to do is reduce it, and then it needs to retreat. So Defender Disrupted. I'll just remove those markers for a second. So first thing we do is turn it to its disrupted side. There you go, it's now a reduced strength unit, and it has to retreat 1 hex. It can only go to 1 space, which is there. The unit that carried out the attack is now going to move into that hex. Like so. This is looking bad for the Greeks, because that unit, the 12th Infantry, has still got 5 movement points left, so it's certain to attack again. We're going to roll dice for the airdrop marker and ground support marker. So let's have a look. First of all, for the airdrop marker, when will that come back into the game? In 4 turns, so effectively that's out of the game. The Axis can't use that again. Where do we go with the ground support marker? Roll the dice. That's in 3 game turns. Again, it's beyond the scope of this scenario, so they won't be using that again either. we've shot our bolts on those, unfortunately. So the German unit, first of all we have to reduce the Greek national will by 2. They were on 4. They now have a national will of 4. We're going to attack again. That was for taking Salonika. Attack again. We're not going to use up any more combat sorties. It'll just be an attack by elements of the 12th Army, and they're going to try and push the Greeks into the sea. The Greeks are now an isolated unit. They can't retreat into the sea, and the zones of control exerted on them around here. It's going to cost 1 movement point for the Germans for the terrain, and 1 for attacking an enemy unit in fine weather. So they will be down to 3 movement points. There we go. And this time no support by drop. Won't need it anyway because it's not in the city, and we're not going to use any air support. Luftwaffe 4 are going to take a break. A much needed break, I think. So here we go. Grey dice for the attackers, red dice for the allies. Best of luck, plucky Greeks. Oh, 1 for the Greeks, 4 for the Germans. This is going to be dire because the Germans get +2 for being German. They get, they're not an armoured unit. No, it's not an armoured unit I'm using. Where's isolated units? Yeah, there we go. Attacking an isolated defender, another +2. So their result is 8. The allies, the Greek units only rolled 1, and they get -2 for being a reduced unit anyway. So that's DD, defender disrupted. If it's already a reduced unit, eliminate it. They tried, they defended well. Where are we? In the end, they were pushed back to the coast and pushed into the sea. But they had a lot of aggression against them. The airdrop, the initial air assault as well, supporting the German infantry. And because it's a full strength field unit, the Greeks use their national will, lose another 1 point off their national will. Their national will is now down to 1. The Greeks are teetering on the edge. That German unit is now going to complete its activation. There won't be any more moves from that unit. Now the only unit we have left on the German side to move is 1st Panzer, which is these guys here. And I've bottled myself in a bit by putting 2nd Panzer down here quite a long while ago. So 10 movement points. The only place to move is 2 across that terrain, 2 into this terrain. So using 4 movement points. So we'll just place them there. Ready for an attack on the BEF. They can't move any further, so that's exactly what they're going to do now. They're going to attack the BEF. The Germans are going to use air support. So we're going to raise the sortie level here of the exhausted 4th Luftflotte 4. Raise the sortie level to 5. Where are we? There we go. See, it's turned red. And 1st Panzer are going to attack the British on the coast here. It's in rough terrain and it's across a mountain hex side. And they've used 4 movement points of their 10, meaning that they have 6 remaining. I'll just put that there to remind me. And here we go. Let's roll those dice. We have no further support for the BEF. And now the only unit now blocking that road to Athens. So let's have a go. This is an assault by the 1st Panzer, supported by Luftflotte 4. Roll the dice. Oh, I'm rolling bad for the Allies here. This is not intentional. I'm rolling bad for the Allies. But this is exciting. What can the BEF do? Let's have a look. Let's go over to the combat table. 6 for the Germans, 2 for the Brits. So +2 for being German, +2 for being armoured. Is that correct? Tank unit defending in or attacking in a unit. Yes, it is. +2 for being armoured. +2 for the air support. Yes. Okay, so the Germans are now up to 12, and don't forget the Brits are on 2. Oh, I think no. I'm not being fair here. We get -1 for the rough terrain. Minus another 1 for attacking across a mountain hex side. So the Germans are on 10. The Brits get +1 for being British. So would France or the USA, by the way. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Let's cross-reference. Not good. DD, Defender disrupted. A full strength unit, reduce it, and retreat 1 hex. It can either go here or here. Bit of a no-brainer. I think it's got to go here, staying on the transport network. The German unit is going to move into its hex. Just checking what that terrain is there. It's still rough terrain. And 1st Panzer have moved into their hex. What I didn't do, look, I still got 1st Panzer as showing 6 movement points. That's not correct. We didn't pay the movement points for the actual attack, which would be another 2 for the rough terrain, 1 for attacking across the hex side, which is 3. And is that it? Or would it be 1 for... yeah, 2 for the rough hex, 1 for attacking a unit, that's 3, and 1 for crossing the mountain. So that'd be 4. So that's now only got 2 movement points left, that Panzer unit. Not enough to put in another attack, which would cost 3. Its activation ends. Which means it's the end of the German phase of their movement. the last important thing to do for the Axis is to trace supply. They are all in supply. They have to be within 2 hexes. For instance, if we look at the this German unit here, this armoured unit, it's within 2 hexes of a main transport hub, and that transport hub goes all the way back to the Reich, for instance. And if that one does, then so do the others. So there isn't an issue there. It can't go through an enemy zone of control, and indeed doesn't do so. So that's absolutely fine. So it's now the turn of the Allies. Well, what can the Allies do? Not a lot. Let's look at the BEF, for instance. It's a reduced strength unit. It would be suicidal to try to attack that German armoured unit, so it won't do so. I think the best thing that that unit could do for its turn would be to retreat. No, we'll use the term withdraw. A tactical withdrawal. Can't go through an enemy zone of control, obviously. A tactical withdrawal to Athens, I think. So 1, 2, 3 movement points. We withdraw to Athens. The Greek unit, similar thing. Let's have a look. It has to basically stay on the coast, doesn't it? Because it can't move into the zone of control there, exerted by that Panzer unit. Or do we stay there? I think we're going to withdraw. So this Greek unit activates and withdraws. It's got 8 movement points. It uses 2, 4, and that's probably it. Is there any point it moving here? I wonder. No, there isn't. So it will withdraw to there, and that ends the Allies' operational phase. The Allies are in supply. The Greeks can trace back to Athens. The Brits back to Athens, obviously, but also back to the convoy, which is protected by the Mediterranean fleet, tracing its supply across the Mediterranean. So effectively, that will more or less end the turn. Replacements phase, we have no replacements or upgrades. Mobilisation phase, there's nothing in the mobilisation box to mobilise. What we do though is we just move the eliminated Greek unit, not the Yugoslavians because they're out of the game. There's the Greek unit that was eliminated earlier. Move it from the eliminated box to the mobilisation box. So were the game to continue for any useful game turns, that could be mobilised somewhere on the board, but I doubt that's going to happen. And that more or less completes the turn. The whole turn, that is, the first month. which means that we've changed history. We actually did it. The plucky Brits and the plucky Greeks are still holding out after the first month. So far, the Axis have not achieved their victory conditions. They still have to take Athens. It doesn't look too much of a challenge though, does it? But we will now get on to the second and final game turn of the game.